My name is Sister Carol Riley, and I'm a Sister of Divine Providence from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've been teaching at Duquesne University in both the areas of music and spirituality for a number of years. I've also been working with the Senecal Retreat House, and as part of that apostolate, I've been working with people to help them understand their personal development, their interior life, their relational life. The basic instruments that I've used is my education with Father Van Kom in formative spirituality, and also the dynamics of the exercises of St. Ignatius. What we're going to focus on in these 4 segments is maturing in celibate intimacy. And the 4 segments that I've chosen to focus on in that process will be, first of all, chaos and creativity in maturing as a celibate. Secondly, what I'm calling when broken boundaries challenge my choice of celibacy. Thirdly, we'll look at healthy conflict communication skills. And fourthly, the crisis of meaning or aging as a celibate. There have been many priests and sisters that have asked me to focus especially on what happens when the relationship doesn't work, and also in the aging process, what happens with the crisis of meaning. But first, let's look at some basic questions. I wonder if you would either turn the tape off or take a moment to reflect on the 5 words that you would say would describe how you relate to people. And then if you would focus on the fact that relationships are a core dimension of celibate loving. And when you look at community, what would be 5 words that would describe how loneliness, grief, anger, depression, failure are handled within your community? If we are to describe celibate intimacy, we'd look at 4 specific elements. The first one is the ability to commit myself. Secondly, over a time period. So I am looking at a history of commitment. Third, the ability to change and be flexible. And fourth, the ability to integrate within my commitment the relationship that I'm working with. So when I think of how are my people in my community valued, how are the people in the diocese valued, what are some important aspects of feedback? What is said of whom, and what is the context of our engagement in pursuits or hobbies? Do these commitments help me to commit? Am I able to take the risk over time? What is my own profile of being flexible, of being able to change? And am I able to live as a person of integrity? When you listed your 5 words, perhaps you used words like, I describe myself as a person who's able to trust in relationships. I accurately perceive reality. I seem to be objective. I'm growing and accepting my shadow side, my weaknesses, my limitations. I'm spontaneous. Maybe some of us listed ourselves as more inhibited, more introverted. I am problem-solving oriented. I'm either independent, perhaps some of us listed dependent. Hopefully we've looked at the issue of being fused in relationships and been able to move past that in our description. Maybe I describe myself as relating in a form of being able to accept criticism. Perhaps criticism is hard for me. In the overall growth in celibate intimacy, a book by Robert Grant, which is newly published, focuses on our history of celibates and the fact that at least 50% of us have come from some kind of an abusive background. So it's important as we look at maturing, growing, ripening in my celibate commitment. It's important that I look at what was the characteristic of myself in my family. Is my family strongly constructive? Do I have a zest for life? Did my family facilitate confidence? Was I looked upon as being resourceful? Was there a heavy level of criticism? Was there the permission, the freedom to take risks? Or is my family one of more destructive bent, where my emotional affect was more frozen or flat? It wasn't okay to share my doubts or my fears. I was often anxious. Did I get it right? Maybe my dad was angry and I tried to bond with him, but found out, no, when he was angry, I had to really second guess that, mind read. Perhaps I was taught to be limited, not able to do it right. I don't have a lot of self-confidence. Or maybe there were very rigid rules that said to me, I have to mind read what you think about me. And that makes for the celibate, for some of us, celibacy becomes a good hiding place. I don't have to deal with relationships. So what I'd like to look at are maybe some false beliefs that I have about myself. There's something wrong with me. I'm unlovable. If somebody gets to know me, they're not going to like me. I'm basically inadequate. Or I'm powerless over how I feel. Other people are really responsible, so I'm characterized in community and in relationships by blaming the other. I just simply know it's your fault. Other people's feelings are more important than mine, so I'll spend my life overcompensating in every relationship, and if I'm in relationship with you, you learn that I'm not important and that whatever your needs are, I will fulfill them. Over the long haul of our being together, that will lead to a lot of resentment. Perhaps I think that I can control what you think of me, so that would help me to hide what I really think in the relationship and lead to a kind of deception, deceit. I won't tell you how I feel because you may not like it. Or I may resist your control over me to the point that if you even make a suggestion, you know me as the Mad Hatter or the one who's always angry. Or maybe I can't handle any pain or discomfort. So when we look at self-intimacy, we'll be looking at 12 facets of intimacy. And with the self-intimacy, I'm looking here at Margaret Paul's theory of inner bonding therapy. And she suggests 5 processes by which I can bond with myself. And this would become the sine qua non for maturing as a celibate. The first is to recognize and name my own feelings, so that I become comfortable in knowing my experience, both in my prayer, in relationship, in my ministerial situations. I'm aware when I read the newspaper of how I feel. So I'm aware of my own inner conflicts. I also am able to name and respond as a loving adult, so I'm able to reflect. I'm characterized as a person of prayer, journaling, other reflective activities. I also am able to dialogue with my own feelings. Perhaps I'll give my out-of-line feeling a name, Agnes anger, Bert boredom, so that I can some way externalize my feelings to resist their taking over, overpowering me.